Not sure which one of these work. That loud enough, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay, we have to speak louder for the older folks.
I don't know what I said about no tomatoes.
Told me they didn't have any, they didn't bring any tomatoes, but he had a handful of rocks. I'm Larry, I'm an addict. Formerly of Almost Heaven, and now live in Anderland. I think I am an ANDA, though. I'm not only an addict, I'm an addict and workaholic and go-getter. When anybody would suggest something about, am I going to work, I get drunk. It's a workaholic. Come on. You can. And a real go-getter, whenever my wife was done work, I'd go get her. I was going to give my talk tonight on humility, but there's just not enough people here for all of that. It's a real pleasure, honor, and a privilege to be anywhere tonight. Many memories in Bendar Hills. The recovery area was up in Pennsylvania, in Harrisburg. So you can blame them. When I first came down to Virginia, in Winchester, 78. And there was a Friday night meeting and a Monday night meeting in Harrisburg. That was 440 miles a week to meeting and back. After about a year and a half of that, my sponsor suggested we start some NA down here. Somebody was going to do some history, I thought, before we started, weren't they, Sharon? Yeah. We did happen to get a meeting going in Winchester in April of 1980. The first East Coast Convention, the whole group went. 4 of us. 2 of us were working. We took my camper and we camped out because we couldn't afford the $48. We got so pumped up and hyped up over that, we went to the World. We came back to the World all hyped up and started a meeting up in Martinsburg and called it Blue Ridge area. 2 meetings, we put out a meeting list. It had something to do with ego, I think. I could reminisce for hours, but Bob told me to keep it short. Wasn't too sure what to talk about, and he said, we'll just tell him what it was like and what happened, what it's like now. Well, it was pretty bad, and they found me, cleaned me up, now it's good. We have nice white clothing. For sure enough, Bob? I have been given so many things far beyond my expectations. That's not the mic, that's my back from the last motorcycle wreck. I have been given so many things. I could go on and on and on with the gratitude I have for life today. I spent the first couple of years, I had some good experiences before that. I spent 2.5 years sober. Went to some AA meetings, boasting 2.5 years sobriety, getting loaded every day. But I wasn't drinking alcohol, so I was sober. And the last time I was in Columbus, somebody asked me in the meeting, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Because sobriety down there killed my ass." And that's where it was going. Some members of Narcotics Anonymous found me. At one of those meetings. And the man said to me, he says, "I think we know what you need." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Why don't you come to one of our meetings with me?" I said, "What do you need?" He said, "NA." What's that? He said, "Narcotics Anonymous." I said, "Oh, no, I'm not one of those. No, I'm an alcoholic. I don't drink alcohol. I go to AA meetings sometimes." He said, "Yeah, I know, but why don't you come to one of our meetings with us?" I said, "But I'm not one of those. I go to AA meetings. I don't drink alcohol." He said, "Yeah, I know, but we go to NA too." As a matter of fact, so does he, and so does she, and so does he, and so does he, so does she, so does she, he. So I took quick inventory of what the man was saying. He said that she went to NA, and she went, and she went, and she went. I said, "Come on." Some of you who know me can readily believe that that was my primary motivation to go to NA. And frequently is. The first couple of meetings, well, before the first meeting came up, actually, they sat on me like about 3 days and just wouldn't let me out of sight, so I wouldn't use. The first couple of meetings, afterwards we go back to Dick and Kathy's apartment up on Mulberry Street, which is really the inner city in Harrisburg. Right next door we raised a cop. And we were going up to his apartment, moving around the back alley. I was beginning to have second thoughts about that. Then we started about the fire escape. I said, "You sure you live here?" Then we got to the top of the fire escape and we went in the window. We sat on the floor, kitchen, had coffee cups, ashtray, and a coffee pot. Living room had ashtrays. Bedroom had a bed. And we talked. But they talked, I listened. Every time I wanted to talk, they'd say, "Shut up, listen." And they asked, well, life was unmanageable. I said, "Well, bullshit, you know, I'm living in a truck. Of course it's unmanageable." He said, "Well, is it because you're drinking?" I said, "No, I'm not drinking." You suppose it's because you're using? Well, could be. Well, you must be a drinker. No, I'm not one of those. And this went on, and repeated and repeated. So meeting, I believe only out of compliance to get him off my case. I said, yeah, sure, I'm an addict. I said, you just took the first step. So I'm not sure I believe it. He said, you don't have to. Just admit it. You don't have to believe it yet. I can honestly say that I haven't done a whole hell of a lot in my recovery. Much has been given to me. Much has been done for me. Much has been done by many. I will claim that I did show up. I did. If there's any one thing I can look at in my recovery and say, I did, with effort, sometimes against my will, I did go to meetings. With consistency. Still do. All else is really given to me. I spent the first couple of years self-inducing a lot of pain, needlessly, beating myself with symptoms, running the meetings crying about but my wife. Who gives a shit about your wife? But the way I feel is, we don't care how you feel. Just don't use. Come to meetings. Work on this program of recovery, starting with the first step. When I'm having trouble turning it over, we don't give a shit. Just go to meetings. Don't use. Work on your recovery. Steps. And being that I'm so good at following directions, I didn't. I just went to meetings. I didn't use. I did very little about working on my recovery. I will say that although we hear it many times, many people will say the first year in recovery, no screwing around. I will claim to have done that. Not many people can, but I did make it the first year. The first time I shared that, my sponsor's wife was within earshot, and she said, yes, Larry, but you had a lot of help. So I said into the microphone, I had a lot of help. And she said, 28 girls said no. And that's about it. That's how I made that first year. 28 girls said no. No way. But after beating myself and making life so difficult with all these symptoms and bullshit, unnecessary pain, and say what you will about you do what you have to do, in retrospect, I didn't have to do that. All I had to do is shut the hell up and listen and follow directions. I chose not to. I moved to Lancaster, which was, oh my God, it was 45 miles away. Seemed like forever. I moved to Lancaster. I was away from a sponsor, away from a lot of people who were close. We started a meeting there. And I got involved with a young lady. And well into the pain of this relationship, I found myself with back against the wall, sitting there, stepping on my dick and hurting bad. Sponsor too far away to help. And I called a friend who I had admired and respected and asked him to be of some help to me if he could. He met me in a coffee shop that night and we talked for several hours. And he agreed to temporarily sponsor me while I was away from home. So we began meeting on Saturday mornings to play tennis. After about 2 or 3 weeks, he said, Larry, what's the matter? I said, nothing. He said, I mean, what's wrong with you? I said, nothing, I'm fine. He said, bullshit, you're crazy as a bedbug. Where are you with these steps? I said, we work those in treatment once 2 weeks or so. said, you did what? In 2 weeks? And the second most profound thing in my life happened. This man made a decision that we would work my steps in the order as they're numbered, one at a time, at his pace, on a daily basis. And he didn't miss a day. There wasn't a day that he didn't ask me what I did on step one today. And there were whatever step I happened to be on. I was not allowed to delve into step 6 when I was on 4, etc., etc. He put the focus on a daily basis on the step I was on. Left to myself, I would probably still be, if still alive, still be talking about the wonderful things that steps are going to do for me someday. I learned a lot about me. I was given freedom from self through the process through and on the other side of 9, I was given a kind of freedom that there's no way in God's earth that I could have understood it. There's no way that I can describe it to someone else and have them know what it is I mean. I thought I knew. Of course, 30 days in recovery, I thought I knew all about steps and traditions. That process in a relatively short period of time gave me the kind of freedom that, as far back as I can remember, as a child, as far back as I can remember, I never knew the kind of freedom that I know today. Long before I ever picked anything up. That freedom from self-condemnation, the despair, that strong desire to want so much for everyone to like me for what I want you to think I am. The crazy asinine circle of just constantly emotionally going and bouncing off one wall and the other. To be given that kind of freedom and to find a love for myself. I was given the one thing that of the 470 some odd religious sects there are today, I was given the freedom to have an understanding of mine, my understanding of a relationship that exists between me and God. I was given that freedom to first self-love. There were so many things that I believed about me. There's no way possible that I could love me. Those steps freed me from those shackles. To be given the freedom from all of that surfaced the confidence, the kind of confidence that you don't have to convince somebody you know what you're about. You simply know what you're about. You simply know and believe life today as it is. together. When I came to face the world, I was staring myself in the face. It was us. It was we. We are it. There were times in my recovery when I began and would get wrapped up in some doubts. There was a period of time when I felt that I had too long been away from and didn't have a concept vivid enough to be of much help to a newcomer. So two things happened. Went to the World Convention in New York, and we had a beautiful, wonderful time. I think I should have picked up a weight chip after that Cherry's Jubilee, but we had a wonderful time anyway. And it wasn't until it was all over, Sunday afternoon, some friends from Pennsylvania and 12 others got in the van. We went down to Little Italy. They were having a Saint Street Festival of some sort, annual type thing. We had a good time down there. We had dinner in an Italian restaurant because the biggest guy in the van was an Italian. Came back to the hotel and somebody said, let's go to a meeting in town. So well, you find somebody from New York knows what a meeting is. I'll drive however many can fit. We fit 18 in the van that night. And the couple that was from New York sat up front and guided me onto the FDR Drive, and we went uptown and jumped off at the Queensboro Bridge, 59th Street, and I found myself smack dab in the middle of New York Avenue going north. My heart was in my throat, cold sweats. I had stumbled around those streets and wallowed in the fear and the anxiety, and all of those horrors were right back in front of me. I could almost taste it. I drove up, I think it was 64, I don't know. Drove up in front of Gracie Square Hospital and dropped everybody off and went to park the van. And I parked next to Gracie Square Park. And as I got out of the van, I could see my bench where I had once lived. I hurried me back to the hospital and meeting, and I listened to many share about their first visit back to New York. The realities of those days in the street, the horrors that I lived, were and have remained very vivid in my mind since. God also saw too that when I returned to Winchester, the several people that were around that had some time, that were sharing the meetings, left for whatever reasons. And there was me, the literature, the coffee pot, and 13 beautiful kids from Shalom, ranging in recovery time from 20 minutes to 20 days to 6 months. And for the next year, that was it. And when somebody tells me that you can't recover because there isn't long-term recovery around, there isn't long-term sobriety, how dare I say that? I'd be glad to share with you what a joy and the beautiful things that were placed in my life because of these. I don't believe anybody was over 6 months. It was a constant turnover of people. growth and the maturity within myself that I enjoyed during that year and a half, until we started to have some people stick. Tells me what I heard a man share in Virginia Beach not too long ago. A very dear friend of mine from Pennsylvania, sponsor. Bob talked about the many beautiful tools we have today. We have a book. Oh, and I got some really good news from Chicago. They have really made some beautiful advance and progress, and they're really coming up with some real beautiful work on the steps and traditions. But we have a book, which that process in itself was a miracle, and I was blessed by being able to participate in a couple of those sessions. We have a lot of literature available. We have a lot of tools today that can help, which we did not have when my sponsor got clean, and his sponsor got clean, and when they cleaned me up. What they did have was the one thing that is absolutely essential. One addict helping another addict. That worked then, it's working now, and it will go on working. With or without all of those tools. But without it, nothing will work. Without that, nothing will work. I've enjoyed, I can't even call them promises, because nobody ever promised them, but I have enjoyed some realities of living today that it really doesn't matter what comes down or goes up. It's amazing. Some of the things I've experienced in the past 2 years were at one time called for suicide. And today, the relative unimportance of the events of any one day are so insignificant to just being alive, being with recovering addicts, knowing and having an understanding of my relationship with God. About time somebody broke that serious shit. I could go on about so many of the realities that are there, so much of the joy that is there. You know, we oftentimes say in jest, even if your ass falls off, don't matter, don't have to use. Well, even if your ass falls off, you don't even have to get depressed. I mean, they just, I don't know. It's so, I honest to God can't remember when I last had a bad day. You know, there are things that have happened in my life that I don't, I've witnessed them, and it's about as far as in my involvement with that witnessing. Don't necessarily condone them. I witness automobile accidents. I don't condone that either. But the relative unimportance of the sadnesses, the disappointments, is so unimportant compared to living life, being alive. I share that with you perhaps as a message of hope. And hope is the one thing that every one of us here has in common. I have oftentimes wondered that so many that I've known in my life who used more than as much as or not near as much as I did. Many of them are dead today. And I wonder, how come? How come we survive? And I believe it is that, however small, spark of hope as we reached what we thought was the depths of despair. That small spark of hope is something that you have, and I have, that they didn't, and they died. We were given that gift of hope. Although the first couple of months seemingly is not true, it's true. Big difference. As painful as those first couple of months are. I've never been dead, so I can't compare it to that, but knowing what I know, I think I'd prefer to be dead. And I share that hope with you. And I share with you that if you have not as yet worked your way through the steps, if you're anyway like my procrastination, make a commitment to yourself to get somebody else involved in your steps. That's what two addicts are about. In and of myself, I cannot be objective. I'm my own worst advisor. Show me somebody with 10 years or 10 days. They can be more objective about me than I can be. Get somebody else involved in your steps. They can be the motivation that you may be lacking. Make that commitment to you for you. Get on the other side of the ninth step. To live and love and be free in 10, 11, and 12. And have that wonderful world open to you with the spiritual principles contained in our tradition. Far beyond anything I ever dreamed possible.